Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Put Boston Mayor Michelle Wu on the list of noxious mayors. And you won't be surprised if you remember. Talked about her before on the show. Raised in Barrington. Went to Harvard. Now became the mayor of Boston after the previous dude was elevated to be the Labor Department secretary or something. I mean, who cares, really? What's the point? You know, got a sinecure. Got parachuted out of Boston to D.C. Anyway, Michelle Wu is one of the new generation of of just really unrepentant and detestable identitarians. She offered this little riff in the direction of first responders. It's very interesting. Big city mayors seem to have a real problem with first responders, including Eric Adams in New York City, even though he's former NYPD, and even though he's moving, it seems, to reinstitute broken windows. We'll get to him in a second. First, Michelle Wu.
Over 100 days, we have connected unhoused residents at Massancast to housing, treatment, and services. We've launched 3 free bus lines. We've taken some big, bold actions, but I won't lie. This past winter was pretty intense. Trial by snow, trial by fire, fighters union. I'm getting used to dealing with problems that are expensive, disruptive, and white. I'm talking about snowflakes, I mean snowstorm snowflakes.
She's a funny lady. We got a funny lady of sorts, the biggest penis in town, as our mayor, too. It takes a similar attitude toward first responders. It's very interesting. Police and fire. And what's Eric Adams doing? The announcement yesterday that Kyrie Irving can play again for the Brooklyn Nets. But the vax mandate's still in force for first responders. So the cajillion-dollar professional basketball player can go back to work, sans compliance. The honkies on the police and fire, maybe not so much. And that's big city, big blue city America. Lawless, big blue city America. Is that the kind of stuff the Michelle Wu's and the Leah Thomases and the continuing to double and triple and quadruple down on identitarianism, will that continue to be the unraveling of the left as we lead into November? For more on that topic, we're pleased to be joined by Scott McKay, publisher at the Hayride and contributor to the American Spectator. Scott, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
So what about sort of the uneven treatment based on, your value to leftist politicians? Do you think that the hypocrisy of politicians like Gavin Newsom, even though he survived his recall, the disparate treatment I'm talking about, Kyrie Irving, who, by the way, I'm fine with what he did, but still, Kyrie Irving gets to go back to work. This is about Eric Adams, not Irving. He gets to go back to work. Police and fire, similarly situated, maybe not so much. Is that what's going to be the undoing, highlighting the sort of hypocrisy, who's in and who's out, or is it something else?
Well, I think that certainly will contribute to what's going to happen this fall. The results of that style of governance, I think, will also contribute to it. I mean, the thing about today's modern Democrat Party is that it's a party by and for people who are incapable of doing a proper job at honest work. And you see this like in every institution that these people dominate. They're awful at everything. And they spread misery like very thickly across the populace. And, eventually when you suck, people will turn you out of your job. And I think that this, November is likely to be a very significant demonstration of that, because let's face it, it's not that the Republican Party is doing anything to earn these, positive poll numbers. This is all about a rejection of the hard left that has taken over the Democrat Party and, the inability to do anything. I mean, these people don't come from, engineering or medicine or any of these, type of vocations where it really matters whether you're good at your job. and it shows.
So, the old saw in politics is if your opponent is busy destroying himself, don't interrupt. But is that true? Right. Is that true in this case? Should you not interrupt what the Democrats are doing across the range of issues? Does the Republican Party not have to do anything except get out of the way?
Well, that's kind of the debate going on within the Republican Senate caucus, right? There's the Mitch McConnell, do nothing attitude, and I think the big part of what McConnell is saying, like we're not going to come up with a contract for America type thing that Newt Gingrich did in 1994. We're going to do any of that. All we've got to talk about is how bad Biden is, and they're going to give us the Senate majority. I don't think he's wrong about that. And of course, the other side of this is Rick Scott, who put out an 11-point, I think he's calling it the Rescue America plan, which I've read through it, and it's great. It's really good stuff. How much of it you can actually accomplish, I don't know, but I don't mind these guys trying. It's about, are you worthy of the power the American people are going to give you, or they're just going to give it to you, and then 2 years from now or 4 years from now, everybody's like, yeah, well, the Republicans are no better. I'm on the Rick Scott side of that, but I can certainly understand from the standpoint of just winning the November election. I can't argue that McConnell's correct over the course of, look, if we just sit still or act like it's Halloween and we're kids trick-or-treating and just open the bag and let people pour candy in, they'll do it. I don't think he's wrong about that. But what I'm looking to see, and I've got a book that's coming out in May that pretty much talks about this. I want to see a political realignment. I don't want to just see, a good election cycle. I want the Democrat Party, as it's currently constituted, to die. And I think I thought the thing that's standing in the way of that is the Republican Party isn't good enough to start a new political era that it dominates. And it's long past time for the GOP to be that. It hasn't really been that since Reagan.
Do you see, though, because of Ron DeSantis's ascension in part, that there are more Republicans, even those less inclined to be as aggressive as DeSantis, that are willing to start wading into these cultural battles over school curricula, women, men and women's sports, and these other matters because they see that there's real political opportunity there?
Oh, I think there's no question about that. The thing about the culture war is, for most of our lives, it's the religious right that was kind of all by themselves trying to fight that, right? And they lost, pretty badly. But the thing about losing the cultural fight in the 80s and the 90s and, first decade of this century is the battle lines of the culture war have shifted to such an extent that, Joe Rogan is on the conservative side.
Right.
Dave Rubin is on the conservative side. And that's a really untenable position for the left to be in. There's a 6'4" dude who's obviously a dude beating the hell out of the girls in the, NCAA swim meet. And the whole country, which didn't really have a poster child for what this, trans sports thing was. And now they do, and they're horrified. And, politically, you look at this and it's like, how can a party get out, that far out over its skis and then try to defend it? I don't understand why there aren't tons of Democrat politicians saying, well, I'm not that far left. I don't understand why they're not doing it. But you're right. They've been doubling down, and I just don't think it's tenable. So the culture war is a great thing for the Republicans right now because they're actually occupying the center of America on an issue that's 75-25, if not better. Of course you're going to press this advantage. Why wouldn't you?
And all that they can come back with, is more of the same in terms of identitarianism and the casting everybody who is not them as suffering from all the phobias and engaging in all the isms. But that starts to lose its currency when you have Nicole Hannah-Jones saying that tipping is a legacy of slavery. I think that I just don't think that's going to be enough for the left. And then also,
you just lost all the waiters when you did that, right?
I would think, and valets and everybody else. But the other piece they have, and they're still using, is Trump. And I wonder how effectively you think they can run on January 6th and deplorables, and we need to, these people that are trying to take back power in Congress are, the legacies of Trump. It's his party. These are his people. You don't want to go back to those bad old days.
Right. Well, the thing of it is, DeSantis makes that harder, like, all the time, because, and look, if Trump wants to run in 24, and, I think he's the nominee if he wants to run, and I'm good with that. I don't think the Democrats have anybody in 24 who can beat Trump. But, what I fantasize about is Ron DeSantis, because DeSantis is a Trump 2.0 with all the bugs worked out of the system.
Yeah.
Like, the guy is so smooth and so clean and so clear when he jumps in on something. I mean, it had to be the fact that, the second place finisher in, which one it was, the 500 meter or whatever, was a girl from Sarasota, Florida, right? Like, that had to be the case, so that Ron DeSantis could go and put out a proclamation that says,
she won. Yeah.
The real winner of that swimming race was Emma Weyant, who's from Sarasota. So we're gonna proclaim that she's the NCAA champion. And it's like, oh, it's terrible that DeSantis said that, and the whole country's like, no, he's right. Whereas if Trump had said that, he would have found a way to irritate people that actually agree with it. And I'm saying that, like, Trump is often more entertaining than DeSantis, but from a political communication standpoint, the way DeSantis handled that is, like, I don't know how you beat that. I mean, they've said everything under the sun that they could think of on DeSantis, and they haven't laid a glove on this guy because he's never out over his skis.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. He is the rare politician because he's actually engaged in the day-to-day, and because he has the requisite skill sets that doesn't just take positions and wave a flag. He explains, because he knows what he's doing, he explains the basis for which decisions are being made so he can advance the flag. And I don't think a lot of people pick up on that distinction, but it's a massive distinction, and it's the rare politician who can do that and do it effectively. And he's just been brilliant in Florida, which is why, by the way, I mean, the latest polling has him up 20 points for his reelection in a state that 5 minutes ago was a swing state.
Well, and the things that they've done behind the scenes in Florida that nobody's really talking about. I mean, he's doing party building in Florida such that it's going to be really hard for the Democrats to win major elections in that state again. Like, they went down to Miami and they scrubbed the voter rolls, and like, they did all the things that you don't really talk about in political communications. It's just a governing thing, and it's changed that state.
Yeah.
And those are like, Trump did a lot of complaining before the fact on, well, they're going to rig the election or whatever. It's like, no, you're the president of the United States. It's your job to make sure that the structure of our elections, is not skewed to the point that you can't win re-election, right? I mean, he talked about it, but, like, DeSantis is the guy who does it. And the point of bringing up DeSantis in a response to your question about, kind of Trump derangement syndrome, that's the only thing the Democrats have working for him, is that Ron DeSantis's popularity and example for other Republican politicians eliminates the ability to press this case that, oh, this is all Trump. And it's like, well, actually, there's another guy we like even better than Trump. And it's the same kind of politics and the same policy agenda, which actually pre-existed Trump and didn't have a home in the party until he came along and, kind of threw the money changers from the temple, so to speak, by getting rid of Bush Republicanism.
What,
because the only reason the Democrats were able to gain any purchase after as bad as they had been running the country in the days of, Jimmy Carter and whatnot, is that you had an exceptionally weak Republican Party whose pundits were bought off by the left, whose politicians basically were stooges of corporate America as it was, building things in China rather than in, Elmira, New York. That party deserved to get, beat over and over and over again in elections. Now the Democrats are the ones that deserve to get beat. And guys like DeSantis are sort of showing the way the Republican Party doesn't quite suck anymore.
The other thing,
if you look at candidates in House races, Senate races, and so forth, all of the new Republicans are much more, you can call them Trumpy if you want, but, they're DeSantis's, or some of them are kind of Ted Cruzy, like Josh Hawley is more of a sort of I call it a revivalist Republican, and there are very few, budding Mitch McConnells out there.
Mm-hmm.
I just like that's the direction the party is moving in, which is better than it was for 20, 30 years before Trump came along.
One other secret weapon for the movement, which which animates the party, at least that's how it should be, the conservative movement culturally that you wrote about recently, in this era of meme politics, the Babylon Bee, Seth Dillon, the Babylon Bee, the secret weapon of ridiculing the cultural elites in an effective and entertaining way, and the space that the Babylon Bee is filling.
The thing about the left is they're ridiculous, and so they must be ridiculed. Your mayor is utterly ridiculous. I mean, and the fact that people are calling her Beetlejuice, I think, is like the funniest thing that I've ever heard.
Among other things, yeah.
Right. And there's other ones that are good too. Like I said, they call her Baby Groot, which I think is hysterically funny. All right. But you have to do that to these people because there's really no other way to respond. You can get mad, but nobody wants to listen to people who are angry and rant and rave. So, you have to make a joke out of these guys. And the Babylon Bee is so good at that they are now fact-checking the Babylon Bee on social media. And it's like
fact-checking satire.
It's a satire site, and you're fact-checking it, which means that you agree that what they're saying is true.
Yeah, and also that they're having an impact. So we need to see what we can do about defenestrating them. Absolutely. Scott McKay, publisher at the Hayride, contributor to the American Spectator. And Scott, we'll look forward to having you back on to promo your book when you're ready to go.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, Dan.
Thanks, Scott. And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Does your garage look like the family junk drawer? Why not upgrade your garage to a clean and organized, usable area? White Rabbit Inc. is the leader in garage organization and flooring since 1988 and the exclusive Gorgeous Garage storage systems dealer in all of Chicagoland, the surrounding suburbs, and southeast Wisconsin. You'll get professional, experienced installation of durable polyurea flooring and innovative storage designs for your garage and basement, typically with one-day installation and lifetime warranty on flooring and storage systems. White Rabbit Inc. is not a franchise, so you'll get all the benefits and personalized service of a privately owned and operated local company. They're